Ladies, if you are on a fat loss journey or hormone health journey, macros aren't working anymore. This is exactly what to do. So let's get into it. Macros, macronutrients, it's a umbrella term, right? Macros and macronutrients mean the same thing, by the way. It's umbrella term for protein, carbs, and fats. Now, when people are talking about macros or macronutrients, sometimes they're talking about the percentages of each that you would have. So if we were having protein, carb, and fat, obviously total would be equal 100%, but someone's saying like, oh, I have a 40-40-30 split, that'd be 40% protein, 40% carbohydrates, and 30% fat. Now, the other way people talk about it is like, oh, I'm on 150 grams of protein, 100 grams of carbs, 50 grams of fat. So you can obviously talk about both of them, and they both kind of mean the same. Well, they mean different things, but they're obviously talking about macros. Now, when people talk about the grams, each gram of each macronutrient is going to equal an amount of calories. So, for example, if you have 1 gram of fat, that's going to equal 9 calories. If you have 1 gram of protein, that's going to equal 4 calories. So each gram of the different macronutrient equals a different calorie total. That's why it's really important, like if you are tracking your macros, you don't need to look, as long as you're within like 10% of the goal, like you're hitting it, like what you're actually hitting. So for example, if you had 100 grams of carbs and you're hitting that within 10%, between 90 and 110, you're fine, right? But if you're outside of that, then it's like things get a little hairy. But as long as you're in between that if you're in 10% variation, I like to get even like tighter if you can, like 5%. When you're in that, that's not going to matter what the calories are, because a lot of times there's different equations out there. So like if you enter MyFitnessPal, it's a lot of times why you'll be hitting your macros so it's tight, but you'll be like 300 extra calories. Like, what the fuck's going on? Also, some companies will like net carbs, and if you are tracking net carbs or if you're not, so it's all going to equal something different, right? So just kind of like just a little bit of a macro, if you are like tracking, like what is going on here? Because I always get that question. But there's two types of like plateaus you're seeing, right? So if your macros stop working, there's two reasons for that. There's a physiological reason, or there could also be an adherence reason. And there could be both, obviously. But let's just distinguish those two, because that will make it easier for us to really assess like the direction to go. Now, kind of backing up a little bit, how do you know if the macros stop working, right? I would say a plateau is where you're hitting everything within, again, that 5 or 10% deviation, like you're really tight on your macros, and you're weighing yourself every single day. From there, the average from week to week of those weights is not, I'd say like 1%, more than 1%. If it's flat or if you're gaining weight, I would say like that's 100% a plateau. But if it's like, you're not at 1%, that's a little bit like of an annoyance thing. Like you're still losing weight, you're just not losing as much as you can. You can kind of go through the same process, but it's like the wheel's not broken, so don't fix anything, right? I would say. But if you want to speed it up, like you can. I'm gonna give you the tools to do it. First off is the physiological plateau, right? What's kind of going on there? You're tracking your macros, you're really, really tight, no progress for I would say 3 to 5 weeks, like you just been flatlined, you've been stuck. First place to look is hormones, right? In the fat loss hierarchy, we have hormone optimization, then we have recovery, and then we have macros. So if we're kind of looking at the hormone place first, okay, what's going on there? Am I having some sort of imbalance that's like decreasing my metabolism, decreasing my fat oxidation, bumping up my cortisol? Like what is kind of going on there? So if you watched me for a bit, y'all know that I'm not a huge fan on blood work. It's gonna be I'm not a huge fan on blood work for hormones. For other stuff, yeah, like get your fucking physicals, guys. But for things like blood work, like, yeah, it's going to be extremely variable. You can get tested throughout the day. It's different scores. You get tested one day versus the next day. It's different. So I would say use a symptom-based checklist. I can message you that on Instagram. Just message me at Dylan A. Conrad, hormone imbalance checklist. There's about 10 to 30 different symptoms for each imbalance specifically, right? So that allows you to not have to drive to a doctor's office there and back and get your blood drawn, which it hurts. And then you wait, 4 to 7 days for results that are inaccurate at best. The better way to do it is just use that symptom checklist, see what's going on, and then you can kind of align everything. So from there, then you can start actually having a strategy of optimizing your hormones. Maybe you're just not sleeping enough. Maybe you need to be on different supplements. Maybe whatever it is, you can kind of optimize that a little bit better. Now, the other part is the recovery, right? HRV. You guys see I'm wearing a Whoop band, but the other wearables like the iWatch, the Fitbit, the Garmin, Oura Ring, they all measure HRV. Now, HRV, heart rate variability, is will show you how your body is recovering. Because if your body is not recovering, your physiological processes responsible for fat loss aren't going to be there. Your metabolism is going to slow down, fat oxidation is going to slow down, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And also, you won't be able to perform as well. You can't, if your body's not recovering, you can't perform well, right? So these are all areas we can kind of look at. If your HRV score is very, very low, okay, then we can figure out strategies to actually boost that, and we don't have to really focus on the macros. Now, if those two things are aligned, and it is actually your macros, obviously you want to, calories in, calories out, you need to be in a deficit to lose fat. Now, the problem with that equation is very short-sighted because the food matters, the macros matter, all that stuff matters. But, I would say if you're a 125-pound woman, you're eating 2,000 calories, that's probably too much. I 2,000 calories for me is extremely filling, extremely filling. And I have fat kid genes. Not the genes that you wear, the genetics, LOL. Anyways, back to what I was saying. So yeah, you look at that, and then if you are in a deficit, then you can kind of look at the macros. If you're in menopause, 0.8 to 1.1 grams per pound of body weight for your protein. If you're not hitting that, that's something you'd want to adjust. Now, in terms of carbohydrates, you can kind of adjust those down to make sure that insulin sensitivity is increased if you do have some insulin resistance, which comes with excess weight holding, excess body fat holding, with hormonal imbalances. So you can start kind of adjusting that down. Now, I wouldn't go too low. I wouldn't go to below 60 into a VLCD, very low carb diet, or below 30 grams, which is ketosis, where you're peeing on keto sticks and you're peeing ketones out. But if you keep going down, okay, that's not working, then it's probably time for a reverse diet. Then it's time, your metabolism is probably down-regulated, especially if you've been dieting for a while, losing fat for a while. So you want to take some time to build it up, and then you can go into your next fat loss phase. Now, if it's an adherence plateau, you can't just stick with it. You're outside that 10%, 5% range of your macros. You're not hitting them dialed in. By the way, if you guys have no idea how to track your macros, just DM me on Instagram, macro tracking matrix. I'll send you my free macro tracking matrix. But if you can't adhere to them, and it could be a couple things. It could be a structural thing where oh shit, how am I going to have 100 grams of protein at the end of my day? So you just need to kind of map out your day better. I would go into pre-tracking where you go in the morning or the day before and you just enter all your food in before. You can go to ChatGPT and get a full menu of what you should be eating. My macros are X, Y, and Z. I'm at 100 grams of carbs, 150 grams of protein, 40 grams of fat. Give me a menu for the day with X, Y, and Z food in my fridge and my pantry, and they'll just give you a whole list. So that could be a structural thing. Now, if it's not, and you're hitting your macros, and a lot of times what happens people hit their macros perfect. End of day, they either start drinking, or they are just I'm still I need a comfort, I need some comfort, I need some cortisol reduction. Some people look for comfort eating, right? I'm overeating at the meals. Okay, I had this meal, but I still want some more food. So there could be more of that, and I would say at that point, especially if you're eating enough food, it's more of a psychological thing. And so what I would really kind of get back into is getting in more of an intuitive process, because a lot of people on macros, because it's a very external way of eating, they lose the internal. They don't even know when they're hungry because they're just eating to eat, right? They're eating to hit these numbers. So a good thing to do is take a step back. You can do a half day or full day fast to understand what true hunger feels like. That's actually probably the thing I like most about fasting, is that it shows your body and tells your mind what actual hunger feels like, because a lot of us forgot about what it feels like. But what I would do is honestly just eat in the morning. So if you're hungry, eat in the morning, a little light meal, but I would let your maybe 100, 150 calories throughout the day. Don't have your next meal and let your hunger actually build up. Let your hunger build up, let your hunger build up. Okay, it gets to the point where I gotta eat, right? And then again, let it build up. So I would actually use that hunger, let it build up, right? Let your hunger build up. And that'll really just get you back in touch with eating when you're hungry and stopping when you're full. And you do eat a macro-friendly meal that you can eat and then get satiated off it. And notice when you're satiated and all that stuff. Make sure you are eating slow, stuff like that. But I would say let your hunger build up so you can understand what true hunger feels like, so you can eat when you're hungry and stop when you're full. It sounds so stupid, but we lose track of that. So that's kind of how you do it. But hope this is helpful. I got to hop on a call. Love y'all. Enjoy the rest of your day.